How much can you really know about someone? Well, I guess that's what book tags are for. Welcome to the depths. Hello, welcome or welcome back to Reading from the Depths. My name is Lecton. Thank you so much for spending some time with me. So today I thought I would do a book tag. This is the Booktuber Bio Tag. And I was tagged in this or mentioned first by Pat from Book Chat with Pat. This is a tag that was originally started a while ago by Jessica's Library Card, and she started this tag to celebrate her 1-year anniversary on Booktube, but then recently Steve Donahue kind of revived it, and he urged everyone in the community to do this tag as well, whether or not it is your Booktube anniversary, with the idea that there's always new people discovering our channels, and you always want to be able to offer someone some insight into who you are, who it is behind the camera. So that is how he revived it, and that's how he shared it. And like I said, I was mentioned by Pat. So with that, let's just jump into it. There are 10 prompts. First one is, who are you? Share a little bit about yourself as much as you feel comfortable. Well, my name is Lecton. I am American. I was born and raised in central Massachusetts, and I went to undergrad to study religion and theater. When I was an undergrad is when I met Buddhism. I found Buddhism. I started practicing and studying, leading meditation. I ran a community of students who were interested in studying and practicing Buddhism and Buddhist meditation. And then I was also a professional theater technician. That's what I did for a job. But then I eventually decided I wanted to go to grad school, and I didn't know if I wanted to do a PhD right away. So instead, I went to a master's program. And for one reason or another, I ended up at Harvard Divinity School, where I ended up getting my Master's of Divinity in Buddhist Ministry. I should say at that point, I was already teaching somewhat at a local Buddhist center in central Massachusetts, doing introductory level teaching, Buddhist meditation as well, and leading community at my grad school. I knew I didn't want to go into a PhD at that point. I mean, I love academia. Don't get me wrong, I really, really enjoy academia. I enjoy the process of study and learning and investigation and exploration that comes from academia, but I don't enjoy everything else behind the scenes. So I knew I didn't want to do a PhD, at least at that point in my life. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I wanted to keep studying Buddhism, study the Dharma more deeply, more intently in like a classical format. And I guess it's also worth keeping in mind that at that point I was in a long-term relationship. I'd been with my partner for maybe a little more than 8 years at that point. So whatever I was going to do, I had him in mind as well as, my family as well. And so I spoke to my teacher, the late Kabje Lama Zopa Rinpoche, and I asked him for advice. And he right away said, you should become a monk. You should go to Sarajaya Monastery in India, study for the Geshe degree. The Geshe degree is this academic degree that we get here at this monastery. It takes about 25 years to complete, give or take. And as soon as he gave me that advice, I knew it was the right advice. And, I told my partner, and he agreed that it was the right advice. And I told my family, and they agreed. And no one else in my family or my partner, none of them are Buddhist, but they saw the transformation that Buddhism had brought to my life. And they recognized that me becoming a monk and living my life as a monk at a monastery and then segueing into more teaching was the natural progression of where my life had gone ever since I started college. So they were all happy for me. So I moved to India in late 2011. I ordained and joined the monastery in January of 2012. And I have been at Sarajaya Monastery in Balakupa, which is a small town in Karnataka, since then. And I study. Like I said, I've been here. So I've been studying since 2012 officially. I still have at least a decade left, maybe 15 years, give or take. So I'll be here quite a while longer. While I'm here, I do teach. I teach mostly at a Dharma center, a temple in Bangalore, which is a nearby city, about 6 hours away. But I've taught all throughout India as well as the US. And I also do translation work. So in addition to my studies here, which are full-time, I do teaching and translation and meditation instruction and other kind of clergy-related work. So that's me. That's what I do. Question number 2, how long have you been on Booktube? My first video was on the 1st of July, 2024. So a little less than 9 months. 3, what kinds of books do you love to read, and has Booktube had an effect on what you read? So I love to read genre fiction, specifically horror and fantasy and sci-fi. Those are my favorite genres. I mean, horror is my comfort zone, so that's my favorite genre if I had to pick one. But I read everything. I read across the board, nonfiction, fiction. I think the reason I like genre so much is, I look at reading and storytelling as a critical part of what it means to be human. I think that the way we make myths, so myth making, the act of making myths, is what defines our humanity, whether those are religious myths or social and cultural myths, whatever kind of myths we make, and we try to understand ourselves through that process of myth making. That is a key factor that distinguishes humans from other types of animals. And storytelling, whether it be fiction or nonfiction, is an extension of that. And so I think that within stories, we can find our own humanity in really meaningful and important ways. That's why I enjoy engaging reading and enjoy doing intimate and deep reading, whether it's in fiction or genre books or nonfiction. And I think genre, especially, and stories that aren't confined by the real, by the natural world, are allowed to go into places of hyperbole, of exaggeration, of things that are beyond belief. And by being able to play in that sandbox and by not being weighed down by human limitations, you can actually take a more in-depth exploration of the human condition, at least sometimes. So I find myself drawn to genre fiction, especially horror and fantasy and sci-fi. And I will say, I don't think Booktube has had much of an effect on what I read. I've always read broadly, but Booktube has definitely introduced me to authors and titles that I would not have come across otherwise. And so in that way, it has definitely expanded what I'm reading and what books have been added to my never-ending TBR and like that. So it's definitely expanded what I read in that way and has made my reading broader in that way, but it hasn't introduced me to any new ideas or topics, I wouldn't say. Number 4, what do you enjoy most about making Booktube videos? The process itself, I don't enjoy. I'm not a big fan of making videos. I'm not a big fan of being on camera if I don't have to be. Even when I teach, a lot of my teachings are live streamed and I just pretend that there's no camera there, and that makes it a lot easier for me. I prefer that. What I do like about making videos is the preparation work, especially if I'm doing a review. When I make reviews, and some of my current reviews maybe have fallen off a little bit, but what I like about reviews is I'm not interested in giving a summary of the book. I generally give almost no summary of the book. I expect that people looking at a review will already have seen the marketing material or the jacket copy. And therefore, I'm more interested in exploring how the characters and the world building, the writing itself, the style, the prose, the plotting, the ideas that the story grapples with or doesn't grapple with, and more importantly, all those things, how they make me feel, how I experience the book. That's what I am excited by when I read a book and when I share a book. Those are the things I want to share with you, not a summary of the book, not the events that happen. I want to share my experience of the book. And that comes from those different elements, right? And so I enjoy the process of gathering my thoughts and try to craft a review that does justice to how I experience the book, that doesn't give away any spoilers, and doesn't rely on reading a summary of the book to get people interested or to share my thoughts on it. So I enjoy that. And other prep work for other videos that I do, whether they be about specific books or about ideas or bookish ideas and things like this, I like that prep work that goes into it. So that's what I like about making videos. I don't actually like making the videos. I like the prep work. And that goes into the next question, number 5. What do you not enjoy about making Booktube videos? And yeah, I don't enjoy making the videos. I'm not great on camera, and trying to find that balance. When I teach, I'm obviously taking the role of a teacher and is very formal, and that is easy for me to do. I've done that for decades. But in this context, it's much more informal, yet I still have to find that line of being respectful of the fact that I am a monk, I'm a member of the clergy, and the internet is great at taking things out of context. And so the way I hold myself and the way I share my ideas have to be somewhat bulletproof, and they aren't. Like, I know they aren't, but trying to find that balance of being respectful of how easy it is for things to be misconstrued online and what it means to be living as a monk, and also be relatable and friendly and share part of my personality. That is something I struggle with, and doing it on camera, not with other people in the room, but just to a blank screen, I'm not great at. So I make a lot of stumbles, I make a lot of mistakes, as you can even see, and I end up having to edit my videos quite a lot because I start and stop and start and stop. And so then the process of editing the video gets to be twice as long as the process of recording the video, which itself, already comes after having planned out the video. So they just end up taking so much time where I could be reading, to be quite honest. So I don't like making the videos. I like preparing for them. I don't like making them. I don't like editing. I don't like editing them. I don't like any of that process, unfortunately. Maybe that will change. What I'm trying to do, at least, one of my inner practices right now, is I am trying to make the process of making videos an extension of my reading experience. So when I read a good book, then the idea of formulating my thoughts in a way that they can be shared with others, and then going through the process of making a video about that book or that topic or whatever it is, I'm trying to wrap that into my experience of reading books, and hopefully that will, ease up on some of the dissonance that I feel right now. But we'll see. It's a work in progress. Number 6, what video on your channel are you most proud of? There are a couple videos that I like. Early on, I did some videos that were looking at, like, what's the point of short stories? or what is the point of trilogies? What is the point of reviews? And how do they function in the greater kind of book ecosphere? And how do those different formats or storytelling modalities affect the way to engage or consume a story? So I like those videos. I think those are good. I also did a video early on about the difference between queer representation and queer erasure, and how I think the line between those two is very thin. I did a video about toxic nostalgia and how that relates to problematic artists. So those kind of videos I am proud of. I enjoy when I have a take that I haven't seen a lot of before, and I can share it in a way that hopefully people can learn something from, even if they don't agree, just can make people think in a different way. I've done a few reviews of trilogies or of series. I really like those. I like the work that goes into or creating a spoiler-free review of a series of books. So I did a review, let's say, of the Between the Earth and Sky trilogy by Rebecca Roanhorse. I like that. I did a review of the original Southern Reach trilogy, as well as then the fourth book, Absolution, by Jeff Vandermeer. I thought that was a good review and good series of videos. And actually, Jeff Vandermeer commented on one of them, so I really thought that worked. It did what I wanted it to do. But I'd say the videos that I'm most proud of are right now the series that I'm doing called The Buddhist Path in Fiction. And it is a way for me to share my type of reading, my reading style, where I do an intimate or deep reading. And so regardless of the text I'm reading, I try to find elements of it that create opportunities for philosophical engagement and for contemplation. And so right now that series is focused on the books of Stephen King, and it is focused on following specific Buddhist philosophical or soteriological topics in a certain order. So that's confining that series right now a little bit. I want to explore those topics in that order just because that's the way we teach them in our tradition. But once that part of the series is done, I'm going to open it up, I believe, and not be constricted to a single author or to specific topics, and just be able to do examples of what deep or intimate reading is and how I engage literature or books and why reading is so meaningful vis-a-vis the way I participate in a relationship with whatever books I read. So that series is just starting. I think there's only really 3 videos, an introduction and then 3 videos. Another coming out maybe next week, depending on when this video gets put up. But that series I'm proud of. It takes the most work to do, and the videos are longer than most of my other videos. But I've been enjoying making those videos. Number 7, is there anything you wish was different about Booktube? Booktube is what you make of it, right? And Booktube is this nebulous concept of a bunch of people talking about books. So your Booktube is different than my Booktube. I'd say, if anything, this is more like what I want to be different about the world, I guess, and not Booktube. But there is a good amount of content that is only negative content. And I'm not saying like a negative criticism or bad reviews or things like that. I think that that's a natural part of discussing literature and discussing books, being critical and being able to be honest about when you don't appreciate or enjoy something and why you don't like it. But whole videos about sharing how much you dislike something and how much you dislike, whether it be a book or a series, and just videos that are framed around negativity. I don't see usefulness to it. I don't think sharing that is useful. However, it gets clicks. I know because I made a video called What I Can't Stand About Booktube, and it was all about this. But that title was a little bit of clickbaity, and that video has literally way more views than any other video because people are attracted to drama and to tension, and we run towards car wrecks. And it's one of the saddest things about the human condition. In Buddhism, we'd say it's like we grab onto suffering with both hands and we call it happiness. And I think there's a lot of that in Booktube, but there's a lot of that in the world. So I appreciate creators who aren't afraid to share critical opinions or negative opinions, but that isn't the central focus of their work. That isn't the central focus of their channel or of their videos. That their central focus is exploring their love for literature and books. So that is where I like to reside, and anything else that is focused on negativity or playing with negative emotions in a way just to garner attention, it doesn't do it for me. So I wish it wasn't the case. Then moving on, number 8. Name 3 books that you have reviewed on your channel that you feel represent who you are as a reader. So I suppose this isn't necessarily the best reviews I've done, but books that represent me. So early on, I had a review of the Book of Queer Saints, Volume 1 and Volume 2, edited by Mae Murray. And these are 2 anthologies of queer horror stories, short stories. And so you've got short stories, you've got queer stories, and you've got horror fiction all combined. So that is kind of me in a nutshell, some ways. So that's one. Another is I did a review of a book called Briefly Perfectly Human by Alua Arthur, and she is a death doula, which is kind of a field she's created for herself that is parallel to hospice care. And now I've worked as a hospital chaplain. I've done hospice work. That's an important part of my ministry as a member of the clergy, and it's an important part of my personal practice. And I thought her memoir, Briefly Perfectly Human, was really beautiful, well written, but also really insightful and contemplative. So that's another one. I'd say another one is the Southern Reach, I guess, quadrilogy. So the original Southern Reach trilogy, as well as Absolution, which I covered in 2 separate videos. But that Jeff Vandermeer is kind of on the forefront of the new weird movement, that blend of like surreal sci-fi and horror with like a steampunk ethos mixed in. That does it for me in a lot of ways. So I appreciate that. What else? I think Adrian Tchaikovsky's Tyrant Philosopher series are, I guess you'd say, historical urban fantasy that I've really enjoyed. I've talked about them a little bit. I have another review of the first 3 books in that series coming out soon. Maybe already come out by the time this video is released. I'm not sure. And I know that's more than 3. But one other one that I think really represents me is one of my kind of favorite authors right now, which is Andrew Joseph White and his 2024 book, Compound Fracture, which I thought was phenomenal. Andrew Joseph White has released 3 novels. All of them are categorized as YA, or they're marketed as YA, but they're very graphic horror stories that are both graphic in terms of their emotional content and like their visceral horror as well. And Compound Fracture is about a young boy who is trans, autistic, socialist, who lives in a small mining town. And the story opens with him being beat almost to death. And then when he's in the hospital, he starts seeing ghosts of one of his ancestors. And so the story is about generational trauma, not just in terms of the internal trauma you inherit, but like generational feuds across families and within towns. And so as he wakes up in the hospital after being beat almost to death, and he starts seeing visions of this ghost of one of his ancestors, he accidentally kills someone. And then the story kind of spirals out of control from there. And so I don't know where I fit in that picture, but I know that book is one that really resonated with me quite a lot, so I really appreciated it. So maybe that is one of the ones that represents me as a reader. Number 9, name 3 booktubers who inspire you. Okay, so I'll start with Pat from Book Chat with Pat. I think Pat's channel is lovely. Pat is such an incredibly kind, open, generous person, and her channel, she is able to do a whole like wide array of different content, whether it be book reviews or whether it be a lot of book tags. And she uses the book tags as a great opportunity to share about herself as well as to promote books that she's excited about. But then also she does poetry. She talks about books that she's taught in her long career as a teacher, as an educator. And so I think her content is really great, and I think her attitude is really wonderful and welcoming and engaging and exciting, and she's a friend. So she and her channel both inspire me. I'd say also Brian at Bookish Texan. I think his style is great, the way he is very straightforward with his reviews, but you can tell that he really cares about literature a lot. And I appreciate the way that he is able to be very blunt about his political views and how he is able to weave his political and social views into his exploration of literature and do so kind of seamlessly, even recognizing, especially where he lives, that it is putting a target on him to some extent, and yet he does it anyway fearlessly. So I'm very appreciative of that. And 2 others I'll mention that both I think are just incredibly genuine. Like when I watch their channels, I can sense who they are as people and how much they care about the books they read. Whether their books are incredibly serious or frivolous, they take the books seriously and they share them seriously and they care about them. So one of those is Shelbey at Shelbey in the Book Club, and the other one is Frankie at Frankie's Shelf. I think both of them are really wonderful creators who you can just experience their personality through the way they talk about literature and the way they talk about the importance of books in their lives. So those are a number of creators that inspire me. And then the last prompt is share the love. It can be challenging to find your audience. Name 3 booktubers who you think need more hype. And so I'll name a couple. Of the ones I'm going to name, some of them have more subscribers than me. So, far be it from me to say that it's my responsibility to hype them up. But they don't have as many subscribers as they should have, I don't think. All the ones I'm going to mention, I think have great content, have a great array of content, have great personalities, bring a lot to their channels. And I enjoy watching them. I enjoy spending time with them. And so the first is Alex from Alex Unabridged, and then Christina from Paper Pages and Possibilities, and then Ashley from Spooky Little Book Nerd, and then Josh from at Already Overbooked, and Ella at Ella Gory's Horror Stories, and Nicole at Nicole's Bookish Nook. Those are all channels that I really love watching. I love the content they put out, And even though some of them, like I said, have more subscribers than I do, I think they all deserve to have even more subscribers. So those are the ones I choose to hype up for whatever that's worth. And that's it. That is all of the prompts. So again, I want to say thank you to Pat for including me in her video, and thanks to Steve Donahue for resurrecting this tag. I think it's a great idea, and I hope you learned something about me. I'd love to hear your thoughts down in the comments, whether it be about me and my reading journey and this channel, what kind of content I offer, or about what you like about Booktube and what you want to see on Booktube, whether it be on my channel or elsewhere. I'd love to have dialogue going with you. But for now, I'll say thank you for spending some time with me today. I appreciate you. Please be kind to yourselves, take care of each other, and go slowly.